Hi, I'm back to tell another story. This one was prompted by a question from actually a couple of my friends who asked me, Fred, why are you so interested in the arts? Why are you so adamant about supporting the National Endowment for the Arts and public media and all this? And so I tried to text them and tell them through social media, and it just wasn't working. So I thought I would try this video story to explain where art first affected me as a soldier, in the hopes that other folks that have similar experiences as I have would understand, well, this is why it impacted me, so they understand me a little bit better. And it starts like this. I had never been more hungry in my life. I purposely missed breakfast that day because I could not wait for the feast that the cooks had prepared for us. See, it was 1991, and I was in Saudi Arabia with the 101st Airborne Division, and we were getting ready to go into Iraq for Desert Storm. And it was Christmas. And if you know anything about the military and holiday feasts, it's just the most amazing meal that they prepare. I mean, I'm talking mashed potatoes and gravy, turkey, and they bring in the shrimp, and I have no idea where they come from, but these huge shrimp, and I could just taste the shrimp. So again, I didn't eat breakfast, and I was just waiting to be able to have this meal. Well, we had it set up in a line, and we were moving all the soldiers through the line. I was an officer, so I ate last. And I looked out into the distance, and I could see the shamal. And in Saudi Arabia, in the desert, there's this phenomenon, and it's called a shamal, but essentially what it is like a tidal wave of sand, whirling brown sand particles that just come at you like a tsunami. And we could see it in the distance, and we knew it was eventually going to hit. So we started pushing the soldiers, faster through the line. And then finally it was my turn, and I just heaped on the mashed potatoes, the gravy, the turkey, and the shrimp. I had like 3 of these huge shrimps around my plate. And as soon as I got my plate, the shamal hit. And everything was just like covered in sand, And I felt like Charlie Brown, football being taken out from under him, I said, oh gosh. But the Army had set up this tent where we could get out of the elements and eat. And I carried my plate in, and, I was considering throwing it away. And I was just sitting there looking at it. And then all of a sudden, I heard this music. And there was a trio that they had brought in. And the song that they played was Bach's Jesus, Ode to Man's Desiring. I'm sure you heard it. It's that song that's played at weddings, just a beautiful melodic tune. And as I heard that song, and I heard it played, and it reverberated through the tent, I looked at my plate, and I was transported to another place, back to my home, on Christmas Day or Thanksgiving Day, and I ate the gravy, and the shrimp tasted like coconut crusted shrimp. It was the best thing that I'd ever had in my life. Several years later, in 1996, I was in Germany, and we were getting ready to go to Bosnia-Herzegovina. The Serbs at that time were conducting genocide on the Muslims, and we were going there in order to enforce the Dayton Peace Accords. But prior to going into Bosnia, we all gathered at a cathedral for midnight mass. Again, it was Christmas time. And what do you think they played? They played Bach's Jesus, Ode to Man's Desire. And I say, hey, man, there's something about this, about this Bach dude, every time I deploy, here he's following me, And sure enough, 10 years later, 2006, we were in Iraq. And I was in a Stryker unit, and the unit, we were in vehicles, and we were on a forward operating base, this big operating base that was secure, and we'd ride around in the operating base. And the soldiers loved to play music when we were riding, from point A to point B. And, rap, rock and roll, metal, country, you name it. Soldiers loved it, right? And the thing was that we had to cut off the music once we got out the gate and went out into the neighborhoods to do our work. And again, the soldiers just loved this music. And I had this one soldier who said, hey, sir, that rap was actually developed in the Army. And, I'm 20 years older than these guys. I'm kind of gullible anyway. And I said, oh, really? What do you mean? He says, well, the cadence, the C-130 rolling down the strip, 64 troopers on a one-way trip. I said, sure, yeah, we all grew up. And what it is the Army has this cadence where you run so you keep in step. And, this is very famous cadence. He said, yeah, this drill sergeant came up with this back in the mid-'80s. And that cadence really started was like this. C-130 rolling down the strip, 64 troopers on a one-way trip. Stand up, hook up, shuffle to the door. You jump right out and you count to 4. If your main don't open wide, you got a reserve by your side. If that one should fail me too, look out below, I'm coming through. Bam. Of course I believed him. And of course it's not true. Well, the thing about driving around in the base and going out and letting them play that music, I had one stipulation. I said, that's cool, you can play the music, but when we come back into the gate, we have to play Bach's Ode to Man's Desiring, Jesus, Ode to Man's Desiring. And the soldiers hated it. Yeah, sir, no, I hate that music. I said, dude, you play your Buckeye Cherry, we play my Bach when we come in, it's all good, right? So that was the deal. So we were out, and it was one of our last missions that we were conducting. And we were coming back from the mission, and we got hit by an IED, improvised explosive device, and it rocked our world. It was one of the biggest IEDs that we had attack us, and fortunately nobody was hurt very badly. And so we moved back into the base, and the soldier, the biggest metalhead in the unit. And he looked at me, and he had, his eyes were glassed, red from the blast, the shock waves. I mean, you could tell he was shooken up. And he looked at me, and he said, hey, sir, can you play some of that Bach shit? And sure enough, we played Bach. And then we quickly, went to Buckeye Cherry. But the point is that the music, particularly, that the classical music of Bach, has that quality where it transports you to that other place. And particularly as it pertains to war, it's one of those things, one of those items that we have that makes us feel human. And not only that, it reminds us exactly what we're fighting for. Winston Churchill was once asked, why don't they divert money from the arts and culture to the war coffers during World War II? And then Churchill just looked at the Parliament and said, then what are we fighting for? Thank you very much. Bye.